Hello, my friends. Today, the situation on the front continues to deteriorate rapidly. Russian forces are once again capturing new settlements. However, there is hope that Trump might soon find a way to stop this war. Yet, not all Ukrainians support the idea of negotiations. Some advocate for continuing the war until victory, and here are the poll results. 73% of Ukrainians support immediate peace talks, according to a survey conducted by the Analytical Center for Progressive Legal Initiatives. The lowest percentage of support for negotiations is in western Ukraine, while the highest is in eastern Ukraine and among people living abroad. As we can see, regions closer to the conflict favor an urgent ceasefire, while those in the western regions advocate for continuing the war. Friends, be sure to share your thoughts on this in the comments. Given the discussions about possible negotiations, one of Trump's advisors has stated that Ukraine urgently needs to stabilize the situation on the front. To achieve this, he suggests lowering the mobilization age to 18 years. Let me share something. We truly need to stabilize the battlefield situation. One of the things we'll be asking Ukrainians to consider is addressing their serious manpower shortage. Their draft age is currently 26, not 18. I think many people don't even realize this. They could mobilize hundreds of thousands of new soldiers. So when we hear about moral issues or frontline difficulties, it's important to say that if Ukrainians are asking the whole world to fully stand for democracy, we expect them to fully stand for democracy themselves. They've fought bravely, they've taken a noble and resilient stance, but we need to see how they tackle the issue of manpower shortages. This isn't just about ammunition, weaponry, or securing new financial aid. It's about stabilizing the front lines so we can start working towards some kind of agreement. I wouldn't be surprised if lowering the mobilization age becomes one of the conditions for continued support for Ukraine. However, Trump hasn't personally commented on this yet, so we'll wait for his statements. Meanwhile, Poland's defense minister has openly expressed dissatisfaction regarding Ukrainians living in Poland. Poland's defense minister Władysław Kozyniak-Kamysz highlighted growing frustration among Poles toward young Ukrainians who fled the war. According to him, there is particular resentment about the lifestyle of some Ukrainian men driving new cars and staying in luxury hotels. Who are these people? Clearly, they are not refugees from Pokrovsk. Share your thoughts in the comments. On the front lines, activity remains intense. So let's dive into the Pokrovsk direction first. Here, Russian forces are relentlessly shelling both Pokrovsk and frontline settlements up to 30 kilometers deep. Heavy fighting is ongoing for control over Звірове, Зелене, Лисівка, and Uspenivka. Closer to Mirnograd, the situation is also challenging. Russian troops are assaulting the villages of Promень, Yelizavetivka, and Baranivka. If these two villages fall, a breakthrough to the highway across a wide front will be inevitable. From there, Russian forces could advance rapidly through the fields, aiming to encircle three major settlements. The situation is haunted by a threat. In the Kurakhove direction, the situation remains challenging. Russian forces have captured another small village and are attempting to advance further. There are also confirmed assaults on Novoandriivka and Slovyanka, but reports from Ukrainian troops on the ground indicate that the situation is far worse than the maps suggest. Northward, The Russians are advancing across a relatively broad front and have already managed to reach Andreevka, where battles have begun for the village's eastern outskirts. If Andreevka falls, it could lead to the operational encirclement of Ulakli and Constantinople. Near Constantinople, the Russians have intensified their activity, signaling that the choke point of the encirclement could tighten soon. Evacuating the wounded and supplying ammunition is already problematic, with heavy losses reported in the area. Many are questioning why holding this position is so critical for the leadership, as it only prolongs the agony for the troops while giving the Russians an advantage. The longer we stay, the heavier the losses will be. In the Velyka Novosilka area, Russian forces are assaulting the city, attempting to push past Vremivka to extend the front line near the western part of the city and secure positions closer to the river. However, for now, Ukrainian forces are repelling the attacks, even though the situation remains dire. Additionally, assaults on Novosilka are ongoing, though the Russians have made no new advances in this sector over the past 24 hours. The front line has remained unchanged. It's also reported that Ukrainian forces continue to strike occupied territories over the past 20 days, and they have successfully targeted 4 command posts and 3 control centers. However, the number of strikes has decreased compared to earlier periods, likely due to the limited supply of missiles being provided. This has in turn resulted in fewer destroyed Russian facilities. Meanwhile, in the Zaporizhzhia direction, a relative calm can be observed. The Russians are not conducting new assaults, and the number of shelling incidents has decreased once again. In the Kherson direction, the Russians are once again conducting attacks near Novakhovka and attempting to advance toward Zabich Island. However, they have made no new gains and the front line remains unchanged over the past day. Now let's move to the Toretsk direction, where Russian forces are continuing to achieve success. After their recent advances, most of the city is already under their control, leaving only the outskirts to capture. Fighting in the area persists, with Russians also attempting to break through to Delivka. However, no new changes to the front line have been reported in the past day. In the Chasiv Yar direction, fighting for the city continues. Following recent Russian advances in the northern part of the city, the situation has deteriorated. However, Ukrainian forces have so far managed to repel new attacks, keeping the situation within the city unchanged. Further south, the Russians continue the assaults on Stupachki, but Ukrainian defenders are holding the line with no changes to the front line. In the Siversk direction, Russian forces are assaulting Bilogorivka and Grigorivka and attempting to advance in the Serebryanka forest. Despite their efforts, no new gains have been reported. Fighting continues along with shelling of Siversk, which has already been almost completely destroyed. In the Liman direction, Russian forces continue the assaults near the villages of Zarichne and Tarny. While no new successes have been achieved, their activity remains high as they persist in trying to advance. In the Borova direction, the Russians are attacking Boguslavka, Zeleny Gai, and Novoyegorivka, with additional fighting reported near the village of Makivka further south. Despite significant Russian activity, the front line remains unchanged in this area as well. In the Kupiansk direction, Russian forces are assaulting Golubivka to align the front line and prepare for the encirclement of the city. They are also advancing toward Petropavlivka and across the fields from Stepova Novoselivka. However, no new gains have been reported over the past day and the front line remains unchanged. In the Kharkiv direction, Russian attempts to advance toward the settlement of Kozacha Lopan continue but haven't seen any successes within the past day. Periodic attacks persist. In Vovchansk, the situation remains stable as Russian assaults have ceased without achieving any breakthroughs. Near the village of Staritsa, no new assaults have been reported, although Russian forces temporarily breached the front line, but Ukrainian forces have since repelled these attacks. In the Kursk direction, Russian and North Korean forces continue the assaults, attempting to break through along the Ukrainian border to quickly cut off supply routes to Ukrainian troops. They are also advancing near Novoivanovka, Ruskaya Porечная, Martinovka, and Makhnovka. Notably, near the village of Zhuravka in the Sumy region, Russian military bloggers have started reporting Kursk, Yunakivka direction. Russian armed forces units have breached into the Sumy region west of Zhuravka. Have they moved into the rear of the Kursk grouping of the Ukrainian armed forces? If this advance toward Yunakivka continues, it could threaten the encirclement of the Ukrainian Kursk grouping. Whether this is accurate remains to be seen in the coming days. Additionally, reports suggest a case of friendly fire between Russian and North Korean forces. Allegedly, Russian troops mistakenly destroyed a North Korean anti-aircraft missile systems, mistaking it for a Ukrainian radar system. Russia mistakenly destroyed a DPRK anti-aircraft missile system. It was targeted by a Russian FPV drone in the Kursk region. So this incident highlights that North Koreans are not only contributing personnel to the conflict, but have also brought military equipment to the battlefield. And Zelensky said that one of the North Korean prisoners of war wants to stay in Ukraine.
The security service of Ukraine continues to work with prisoners from North Korea. One has expressed a desire to remain in Ukraine. The other wants to return to Korea. If Kim Jong-un even remembers these citizens of his and can organize an exchange for our soldiers held in Russia, we can transfer such soldiers. Undoubtedly, there will be more North Korean prisoners. I am grateful to all our units who are helping to replenish Ukraine's exchange fund.
Friends, make sure to share your thoughts on this in the comments. Meanwhile, Fico is once again threatening Ukraine, this time with imposing a veto on military aid from Europe. If Zelensky has decided to harm Slovakia and the European Union because he thinks he can get away with it, then I will impose a veto on aid within the European Union framework, shouts the Slovak Prime Minister, as if forgetting that Ukraine is not just a transit corridor, but a country that has been defending itself from Russian aggression for several years. And while Fico is contemplating the veto, a group of Slovak deputies has traveled to Moscow to discuss gas prospects. However, Poland apparently didn't appreciate their enthusiasm and refused to let their plane fly through its airspace, so they had to travel via the Czech Republic and Germany. Interestingly, the deputies, including ultra-wing members and representatives of the ruling party, promised to fund their trip to Russia out of their own pockets. However, the Slovak news outlet Aktualnosti reported that the trip was actually financed with public funds. In general, Fico is once again trying to threaten, but nothing is happening. What do you think about this? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.